I can still feel the cold steel of that key in my hand, the one I used every morning for 35 years to unlock the garage door of Cole's Auto Repair. That key had grooves worn into it from thousands of turns, and if keys could talk, it would have told the story of a man who gave everything to keep the doors open, not for profit or pride, but for family. For my kids. My name is Martin Cole, and I've been a mechanic longer than my kids have been alive. I built this place from nothing, just a single rented bay and a secondhand toolbox when I was 22, newly married and too stubborn to work for anyone else. Back then, I thought hard work could fix anything. Cars, broken finances, even grief. But I was wrong about one thing. Hard work doesn't fix kids who don't want to grow up. Aaron is 28 now, full of big ideas that never seem to land. Crypto schemes, drop shipping, online coaching, he's always got a new pitch. And when it collapses, guess who writes the check? Me. Lucy is 24, sweet as sugar, creative as her mother was, but living like a teenager on a college budget she doesn't have. She works part-time, spends full-time, and every few months I get a call about rent or a car payment or some emergency that only my bank account can solve. And for years I did it. I did it because I told myself they were my world, because I thought my job as a father was to shield them from pain. Maybe I wanted to shield myself too, because every time I said no, I heard my late wife's voice asking me if I'd done enough. That night, I stood outside the shop long after closing. The place looked the same as it always had. Faded sign, walls lined with shelves of oil filters and spark plugs, the faint smell of grease and burnt coffee, lingering from the morning pot. But it felt different because I had made a decision that would change everything. I was selling the shop. I hadn't told Aaron or Lucy yet, and just thinking about their faces made my stomach knot. They thought the shop was theirs in some vague, entitled way, even though neither had ever worked here more than a summer. I had spent 3 decades imagining passing it down, but reality had hit me like a wrench to the ribs. I'd built a safety net so big they didn't know how to walk without it. And I was done. I spent the afternoon cooking dinner. I don't cook often, but that night I wanted something that would force them to sit at the table, to actually look me in the eye. Barbecue chicken, mashed potatoes, cornbread, the works. It smelled like my wife's cooking, the kind she used to make when she wanted everyone to be present, to really be there. Aaron arrived first, wearing sneakers that cost more than my first car. He had his phone pressed to his ear, talking about leveraging opportunities and angel investors, as though he'd just walked off the set of some reality show. "Yeah, bro, I'll circle back tomorrow." "Big things coming," he said, then hung up and grinned at me. "Hey, Dad. Wow, smells good. Did you get a new smoker or something?" "Nope. Just decided to cook tonight," I said. "Glad you could make it." Lucy came in a minute later, scrolling through her phone, thumbs flying. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, barely looking up. "Hey, Dad, Wi-Fi still working? I gotta upload something." I forced a smile. "Yeah, it's fine, dinner's ready." We sat down, and for a while, it felt almost normal. They talked to each other more than to me, Lucy, about some influencer she was following, Aaron about his next big thing. I let them talk, chewing my chicken slowly, waiting for the moment. It came halfway through the meal. Aaron cleared his throat. "So, Dad, listen. I need to borrow $5,000. Just short term. I'm launching a new platform, and this is it, man. It's the one. I'll pay you back in 2 months. Tops." Lucy jumped in right after, like they'd rehearsed it. "And I'm behind on rent again, just until I get my next paycheck. Promise." I put my fork down. Slowly, deliberately. "No," I said. They froze like someone had hit pause. "No to what?" Aaron asked, laughing nervously. "No to both of you," I replied. "No more loans, no more rent payments. I'm done being the safety net." Lucy blinked. "You can't just stop, Dad. You've always helped us. That's what you do." I leaned back, meeting their eyes. "That's what I did. I'm done now. I'm selling the shop." Aaron laughed, expecting me to laugh too. "Selling the shop? Why would you do that? That's our future." I shook my head. "No, Aaron. That's my past. I've given everything to this place, and to you both. And I'm tired. I want something for myself now." Lucy stared at me, wide-eyed. "But what about us? What are we supposed to do?" "Figure it out," I said, my voice soft but firm. "You're grown. It's time." The rest of the meal was silent, except for the scrape of silverware. I could feel their anger, their shock, hanging in the air like smoke. When dinner ended, Aaron stood abruptly, muttering something under his breath, and Lucy grabbed her phone, tears welling in her eyes. Neither hugged me goodbye. The door slammed, leaving me alone in the quiet house. I sat back down at the table, staring at their plates, half-eaten and cold. On the wall behind me was a photo of us taken 10 years ago, all smiles in front of the shop. I stared at it for a long time. I loved my kids more than life itself. But that love had become something toxic, something that kept them weak and kept me exhausted. I whispered into the empty kitchen, "It's time." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my recliner, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what it would mean to actually let go. Selling the shop wasn't just about money, it was about identity. For years, I was Martin, the mechanic. Martin, the dad who fixes everything. Who would I be without that? The answer scared me, but it also thrilled me. The next morning, I stood outside the shop again, holding that worn key. I turned it in the lock, knowing one day soon I'd do it for the last time. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled. When I woke up the morning after telling Aaron and Lucy about selling the shop, the house felt different. It wasn't the quiet I'd grown used to over the years since my wife passed. It was heavier, like the silence was angry at me. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at my phone, knowing what was coming before I even saw the screen. 7 missed calls from Aaron, 5 from Lucy, a dozen texts. I scrolled through them slowly, bracing myself. Aaron, you can't be serious. This is our future you're throwing away. Lucy, I don't understand how you can do this to us. Aaron, so what? We're on our own now. After everything? Unreal. Lucy, I thought family had each other's backs. That one cut the deepest. Family has each other's backs. Hadn't I been doing exactly that for 35 years? Hadn't I broken my back for them, built my whole life around making sure they didn't fall? I typed and deleted responses half a dozen times before finally setting the phone face down. No, I told myself. Not today. No quick apologies, no backpedaling. By mid-morning, there was a knock at the door. Hard, persistent. I didn't even need to look to know it was Aaron. He barged in before I could speak, his face red with anger. You can't actually be doing this. Morning to you too, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. You're selling the shop? Our shop? I set my coffee down. It's not our shop, Aaron. It's mine. And I've already made up my mind. His hands balled into fists. You don't get to just decide that. This shop was supposed to be our inheritance. I stood up slowly, meeting his eyes. Inheritance isn't something you get to claim before a man's even dead, son. And it's not a burden I'm going to carry anymore. He laughed bitterly. So what, you're retiring? Gonna sit on some beach while we figure out how to survive? That's exactly what you're going to do, figure out how to survive. Like I did when I was your age. Aaron's jaw tightened. You're abandoning us. No, I said, voice firm. I'm trusting you to stand on your own. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I sat back down, my hands trembling not from fear, but from holding my ground. For 30 years, I had been the fix-it man, not just for engines, but for lives. And I was tired. That afternoon, Lucy showed up, eyes already puffy from crying. She sat on the couch, gripping her phone like it was her last lifeline. Dad, please tell me you're not serious about this, she whispered. I'm serious, I said gently. I've been serious for a long time. I just never said it out loud. Her eyes filled again. What am I supposed to do? My rent's late. I don't even have enough for groceries this week. I held up a hand. Lucy, you're 24. You have a job. You have your own life. It's time to figure this out on your own. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. I thought you wanted to help us. That's what Mom would have done. That stung. My wife had been a kind woman, but she also believed in boundaries. I had been the one who blurred them after she passed, thinking I was protecting the kids, when really, I was trapping them in childhood. Your mom believed in teaching you to stand on your own, I said quietly. I should have done the same years ago. Lucy stood, shaking her head. This isn't you, Dad. I don't even know who you are right now. You'll figure it out, I replied softly. She left without hugging me, without even looking back. The silence that followed was suffocating. That night, I drove to the shop and just sat there in the dark, engine off, staring at the building. Memories washed over me, Aaron as a kid handing me wrenches, Lucy sitting on the workbench drawing while I changed oil, my wife bringing sandwiches for lunch during long days. This place had been my life, and letting it go hurt more than I'd admitted. But the alternative was worse, staying chained to it until I died, still paying bills that weren't mine, still keeping grown children from facing their own lives. The next morning, I found a note taped to my front door. It was from Aaron, written in angry block letters. "If you go through with this, don't expect us to be around." I stared at it for a long time before folding it neatly and placing it in a drawer. I had expected this kind of backlash, but it still cut deep. For the next few days, the calls didn't stop. Aaron texted screenshots of apartments he claimed he couldn't afford without me. Lucy sent long messages about feeling betrayed. Every beep of my phone was another reminder of how fragile our relationship had become. Not because I'd said no, but because I hadn't said it sooner. I ignored most of them, focusing instead on meeting with the broker handling the sale of the shop. When I signed the initial paperwork, my hands shook not with fear, but with the weight of closing a chapter 35 years in the making. On the fourth day, Aaron showed up again, calmer this time, but with an edge in his voice. "Dad, let's be reasonable. Don't sell the shop. Give it to me. I'll run it." I sighed. "Aaron, you've never worked more than a summer in that shop. You don't even like fixing cars." His face hardened. "So you don't trust me?" "This isn't about trust. It's about what's real. You need to build something of your own, not live off mine." He laughed bitterly. "So that's it? You're choosing yourself over us?" "For the first time in 35 years, I said quietly, "Yes." He left again, slamming the door. But something was different this time. There was no shouting, no accusations, just silence. Maybe, I thought, something had finally sunk in. That evening I sat on the porch, looking at the fading sunset. I thought about what my wife would say if she were here. I imagined her sitting next to me, sipping her tea, telling me I was doing the right thing. And for the first time since she died, I felt like I was listening to her again. Inside, my phone buzzed. A message from Lucy. "Lucy, I'm scared, Dad. What if I can't do this?" I typed back, "That's how you know it's worth doing. I believe in you." There was no reply, but I didn't need one. For the first time in years, I'd given them something more valuable than money: responsibility. The third week after my announcement started like any other. Coffee at 6, a walk around the block, and checking emails about the shop's sale. The broker had lined up 2 serious buyers, both ready to sign, and I should have been excited. Instead, I sat in my kitchen, feeling the quiet press against my ears like heavy cotton. The kids hadn't called for days. After the storm of angry texts and slammed doors, the silence felt unnatural. I told myself it was good. They were grown adults. Maybe they were processing, finally learning to stand on their own. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew it wasn't that simple. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Cole?" a woman's voice asked when I answered. "This is Rachel from Franklin Properties. Your daughter Lucy listed you as an emergency contact. She's 2 months behind on rent. We wanted to see if you'd like to bring the account current before we file an eviction notice." I closed my eyes and let out a slow breath. 2 months? Lucy had told me she was just a little behind. "No," I said after a long pause. "That's something she'll need to handle herself." The woman hesitated. "Are you sure? It's quite common for parents to—" "I'm sure," I cut in gently. "Please speak with her directly." I hung up and sat back, staring at the phone. The old me would have driven to her apartment, checkbook in hand. But that man was gone. That evening, I got a text from Lucy. "Lucy, did you tell them to call me? They said you refused to help. I can't believe you." I typed back, "Yes, you're capable of figuring this out. I believe in you." The reply came fast. "Lucy, belief doesn't pay rent, Dad. You've abandoned me." I set the phone down, my chest tight, but I didn't respond. 2 days later, Aaron showed up unannounced, storming into my living room, with his usual confidence hiding barely contained panic. "You hear about Lucy?" he asked, pacing like a caged animal. "She's about to get kicked out, Dad. Kicked out." "I know." I told her to handle it. Aaron stared at me like I'd grown horns. "What is wrong with you? You're just sitting here drinking coffee and reading about retirement cruises or whatever while your kids' lives fall apart." "Your lives aren't falling apart," I said calmly. "They're changing. You're learning." "Learning?" He laughed bitterly. "Lucy's crying every night. I had to loan her $200 just so she could eat this week." "And how did that feel?" I asked. He froze. "What? How did it feel to help your sister? To actually step in instead of expecting me to do it?" He shook his head, muttering under his breath. "You're unbelievable." "No, Aaron," I said, standing up. "I'm just done carrying the weight for both of you. It's time you learn to carry yourselves. He left without slamming the door this time. Progress? Maybe. The next morning, I received an email from the broker. Buyer, accepted counteroffer. Closing in 6 weeks. I sat there staring at the screen. It was really happening. The shop, my life's work, was leaving my hands. The thought terrified me and thrilled me at the same time. Later that day, Lucy called. Her voice trembled. Dad, I'm being evicted Friday. I gripped the phone, every instinct screaming at me to fix it. What's your plan? She hesitated. I don't know. I was hoping. Lucy, I said softly. You've got this. Call your HR department. See if they have hardship programs. Sell what you don't need. Ask about short-term housing. You can do this. Her voice broke. I hate you for this. I closed my eyes. I can live with that, because one day, you won't. She hung up. That night, I sat on my porch, the cool spring air cutting across my face. I thought about my wife, how she'd handled the kids when they were little. She'd let them fall sometimes just enough for them to learn how to get up again. I hadn't done that. I'd built walls around them, patted every corner, and called it love. But love isn't about preventing pain. It's about preparing them for it. 2 days later, Lucy texted again. Lucy, sold my television. Found a room to rent. It's small, but I can afford it. Moving Saturday. I smiled, a tear sliding down my cheek. She did it. That same week, Aaron called sounding different, tired but grounded. Dad, I've been picking up more hours at the garage. I'm trying to cover Lucy's deposit, but I'm keeping up with my bills too. It's hard. I know, I said gently, but I'm proud of you. He was quiet for a moment. Yeah, thanks, Dad. For the first time in years, I felt something shift in my family. It wasn't easy, and they weren't happy with me, but they were standing on their own, shaky legs, yes, but standing nonetheless. That weekend, I drove by the shop late at night, lights off, tools neatly hung, floors swept clean. I stood there holding the key in my hand, knowing soon I'd never use it again. And for the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt free. The shop closed for the last time on a Thursday. I stood in the middle of the bay, taking in the smell of motor oil and rubber, a smell that had clung to my clothes and skin for most of my adult life. The walls were lined with tools I'd collected over decades, wrenches, sockets, specialty instruments only a handful of mechanics ever used anymore. Most of them were already boxed up, ready for the buyer to take over. The finality of it hit me hard when I turned off the lights and heard the echo of my own footsteps on the concrete floor. I had spent more waking hours here than in my own house, and now I was letting it go. But instead of regret, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. The next morning, I brewed coffee and sat at the kitchen table without opening my phone. I didn't want to see messages about Lucy's eviction or Aaron's schemes or anyone asking me if I was really okay. I just wanted silence. It was glorious. I pulled out an old box I hadn't touched since my wife died. Inside were hiking boots, a camera with dust on the lens, and a stack of maps. My wife and I had once planned to see the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, even Alaska, but life had swallowed those plans whole. I smiled at the maps. Guess it's time, I said to no one in particular. Later that day, Aaron called. His tone was calmer than it had been in weeks. Dad, you really sold it? Paperwork signed. I'm out. There was silence on the other end. Then, I didn't think you'd go through with it. I know. I guess I thought, he trailed off. That I'd keep working until I died so you could have a cushion? I asked gently. Yeah, maybe. I took a deep breath. Aaron, I love you. But I spent 35 years holding you up, and I never let you learn to stand. That's on me. But it ends now. He sighed, long and heavy. Lucy's moving tomorrow. She's different, Dad. I think she's actually proud of herself. I smiled. She should be. And you? How are you holding up? He chuckled softly. Working my ass off, but it feels good. That's life, son. It's supposed to be hard sometimes. That's how you know it's real. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat at the dining table with an open journal and started to write. I wrote about my wife, about the shop, about Aaron and Lucy as kids, and about how I'd let fear shape my parenting. I wrote until my hand cramped, and when I put the pen down, I felt lighter. The next week was a blur of change. Lucy texted me a photo of her tiny new apartment, barely big enough for a bed and a folding table, but hers. It's small, she wrote, but I did it myself. Aaron sent me a selfie from work, covered in grease but smiling for the first time in what felt like years. Halfway done paying off that stupid loan I co-signed. Learning the hard way, but I'm learning. I stared at those messages for a long time, pride swelling in my chest. One evening, as I sorted through the last of the shop's paperwork, I found an old brochure for an Alaskan cruise, the one my wife and I had once circled in red ink as a someday trip. Someday had finally arrived. I booked the cruise for 3 months out. I even splurged on one of those ridiculous glacier helicopter tours she had always joked we'd never afford. That night, Aaron and Lucy showed up together. No slammed doors, no accusations, just two tired kids standing on my porch with takeout boxes in their hands. "We brought dinner," Lucy said softly. We sat together at the same table, where weeks ago I had told them no for the first time. This time, there was laughter, real laughter. They talked about work, about Lucy's new apartment, about Aaron's payment plan. And for the first time, I didn't feel like their crutch. I felt like their father again. Halfway through the meal, Lucy looked up. "Dad, I get it now. You weren't abandoning us. You were making us grow up." Aaron nodded. "Yeah, you saved us by stopping saving us." I smiled, my chest tight with emotion. "I just wanted you both to know what you're capable of. And now you do." When they left that night, I sat on the porch under the stars. The same porch where I'd once doubted everything. Now, I felt something new peace. I wasn't just closing a chapter. I was writing a new one that belonged entirely to me. The day I put down the deposit for the Alaskan cruise, I felt lighter than I had in decades. It wasn't just about the trip, it was about what it represented. For years, everything I did had been for Aaron and Lucy, shielding them from the consequences of their choices. This was for me. My wife had always wanted to see Alaska, to stand on a glacier and feel small in the face of something timeless. I was finally honoring that dream, even if I was doing it alone. But while I was booking helicopter tours and dog sled excursions, my kids were still learning what it meant to stand on their own 2 feet. And standing on your own? It's never pretty at first. 2 weeks after Lucy moved into her new apartment, she called me, voice shaking. "Dad, my roommate just bailed." I closed my eyes, bracing myself. "Here it comes." "She left in the middle of the night," Lucy continued, "and took her half of the rent with her. I'm screwed." I could hear the fear in her voice, but also something else, a tone I hadn't heard before. She wasn't begging me to fix it yet. She was just scared. "What's your plan?" I asked. There was a pause, then a shaky laugh. "Of course that's what you'd say. I think I can pick up more hours. I might sell some clothes I don't wear." "That sounds like a good start," I said. "You're not going to bail me out, are you?" I smiled softly, even though she couldn't see it. "No, sweetheart, but I believe in you." She sighed, long and heavy. "Yeah, I kind of figured. I'll figure it out." Aaron wasn't doing much better. One evening, he showed up at my door, shoulders slumped. "Dad, I might lose my car." "What happened?" "I missed 2 payments while I was helping Lucy with her deposit, and now they're threatening repossession." For a second, my old instincts kicked in. I almost offered to write the check, but I stopped myself. "You've been picking up more hours, right?" I asked. "Yeah, but it's not enough." "Have you called the lender? Asked for a modified payment plan?" He frowned. "You can do that?" "Yes, you can. It's not easy, but it's possible. You gotta face it, Aaron, not run from it." He groaned, running a hand through his hair. "Man, you're really sticking to this whole no bailouts thing, huh?" "Yep," I said, trying not to smile. He chuckled bitterly. "I hate it, but I guess I get it." A week later, Aaron texted me. "They worked out a plan. Car's safe. I'm broke, but safe." I replied, "Proud of you, son." His response came quick. "Feels kinda good, actually." While they were learning to deal with real-life problems, I was rediscovering parts of myself I'd buried. I pulled my old hiking boots from the closet and took long walks in the woods every morning. I even bought a used camera from a pawn shop and started photographing sunrises like I used to before the shop consumed my life. The more I focused on my own life, the clearer everything felt. I hadn't realized how much of my identity had been wrapped up in being the fixer, the provider, the one who had to be there for every crisis. Now, I was just me. The turning point came 2 weeks before my trip. Lucy invited me to see her new place. Not the half-empty apartment she'd panicked over, but the one she'd moved into after negotiating with her landlord for a smaller, cheaper unit. When I walked in, I was stunned. It was tiny, yes, but spotless. She had secondhand furniture, thrifted curtains, and even a little shelf with cookbooks. "What do you think?" she asked nervously. I smiled. "It's perfect." She grinned, pride glowing on her face. "I did it all myself. Didn't even use a credit card." I hugged her tightly. "I'm proud of you, Lucy." She pulled back, tears in her eyes. "I get it now, Dad. You weren't being cruel. You were giving me a chance to grow up." My throat tightened. "That's all I ever wanted." Aaron came by later that night. "You ready for your big cruise?" he asked, a smile tugging at his mouth. "Almost," I said. "Still can't believe I'm actually doing it." "You should," he said. "You earned it. And thanks for not rescuing me." I laughed. "That's a weird thing to thank someone for." "No, seriously," he said. "If you'd bailed me out, I'd still be living like a kid. Now I feel like I can handle stuff. It sucks, but it's kinda good." I patted his shoulder. "That's life, son. It sucks, and it's good." The night before I left for Alaska, they both showed up again, this time with a cake that said Bon Voyage in uneven icing. We ate, laughed, and talked like a family. Not a broken one held together by money, but a real one connected by respect. Lucy raised her glass of soda. "To Dad, for finally living his life." Aaron smirked. "And for kicking us out of the nest, even if we screamed the whole way down." I chuckled, blinking back tears. "To all of us finally flying." When I boarded that ship the next day, I felt like a man unchained. I stood on the deck, watching the shoreline shrink, and whispered, "We're gonna be okay." And for the first time in years, I knew I was right. The cold Alaskan wind hit me like a wake-up call. Standing on the deck of that cruise ship, staring out at water so blue it looked painted, I realized something. I hadn't felt truly alive in decades. For years, my life had been a cycle of work, bills, and rescuing grown kids from their own decisions. Now, for the first time, I was doing something for myself, and it felt incredible. The ship glided through icy waters, surrounded by mountains capped in white. I leaned on the rail, my breath visible in the air, and whispered to my wife's memory. We finally made it. Each day of the trip peeled back another layer of who I'd been. I took a helicopter ride to a glacier, stood on ancient ice, and felt so small yet so powerful all at once. I went dog sledding, tasted salmon straight from the grill, and even made friends with a retired couple from Arizona who convinced me to try ziplining. For the record, I screamed like a kid, but loved every second of it. But it wasn't just adventure, it was reflection. Every night, lying in that quiet cabin, I thought about Aaron and Lucy. For so long, I had defined myself through them, through being needed. Now, I was letting them define themselves, and I wondered if they hated me for it or quietly thanked me. Midway through the trip, I got a text from Lucy. "New job, full-time, benefits. I'm official." Attached was a photo of her in a headset, grinning from a cubicle. The next day, Aaron texted, "Paid off that loan. 100% mine now. Drinks on me when you get back." I stared at those messages for a long time, tears welling up. I had feared they'd crumble without me, but instead, they were rising. On the final night of the cruise, as the sun dipped behind jagged peaks, painting the sky pink and gold, I made myself a promise. When I go home, I'm not going back to the old version of me. No more fix-it man. No more human ATM. I was going to live. When I stepped off the plane back home, Aaron and Lucy were waiting. Aaron held a sign that said, "Welcome back, Dad," in messy marker, and Lucy had tears in her eyes. "You look different," she said, hugging me. "I feel different," I replied. Aaron grinned. "You're tan. In Alaska. How does that even happen?" "Glacier reflection, I guess." I laughed. That night, we sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd once told them no for the first time. But everything about the energy was different now. Aaron leaned back. "So, Dad, what's next? You gonna start dating or something?" I chuckled. "One trip at a time, son." Lucy reached across the table, taking my hand. "Thank you, Dad. For everything, for letting us fall so we could stand." I squeezed her hand, my throat tight. "I'm proud of you both. Not for being perfect, but for trying. For getting back up." After they left that evening, I sat on the porch, looking at the stars. My life wasn't perfect, but it was real. My kids were finding their own way, and I was finally living mine. I whispered again to my wife's memory, "We did good. They're going to be just fine. And so am I."